nervous system video 3. Now let's take a little look at these nerves in more detail, or particularly these nerve cells, which we call neurons. So we're going to look at the different types of neurons that are in the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, and what the point of them is, and the process that's involved in finding a sensation of a stimulus and responding to it, which we call the stimulus response model. So there's 3 main types of neurons you need to be aware of. The sensory neurons, which are in your peripheral nervous system, and they pick up messages from the body and send them into the central nervous system. Then there's the interneurons, which are entirely within your central nervous systems. They relay messages between things. You might sometimes hear them referred to as relay neurons for that reason. And motor neurons. Again, these are in your peripheral system, and they take the message back from the central nervous system and say, right, this is what we're going to do with it. So the way a body performs an action, we get a stimulus, sensory receptors pick it up, and that's where we go to our first neuron. Okay, sensory ones. Pass that message through to your central nervous system, interneurons in there, pass the message along. They send the message to the motor neurons, and that goes to an effector. Something like a muscle that moves, or a gland that releases a hormone, that kind of thing. Right? So if we were thinking about seeing a dog, see a scary dog, that's your stimulus. Your eyes are the sensory receptors. They send a message along a sensory neuron from your eyes to your brain. That's gonna go, oh my god, that's a scary dog, send a message to your leg muscles, and that will have an action. You're gonna run away. I'm gonna run away. Some of you might stand your ground. Okay? So you've got a sensory input, your nervous system and your brain in particular integrates it, and then we get a motor output. Communication is the key. Okay, we need to have those interneurons connecting things in the central nervous system for it to actually work. Okay. The brain in the central nervous system is what determines the correct response. Not just any old response, we've got to have the correct one. Okay. Reflexes are very similar. The difference with a reflex action is it's involuntary, so you're not using your brain. You're using your spinal cord. And the spinal cord is having just the quickest connection. And this is for things that a message to the brain would actually take too long. It doesn't take very long, but it would be too long. Okay? Reflex actions need to be super fast. So, your stimulus might be the hand touches a hot plate. Your receptor, the skin detects change in temperature. That goes to a sensory neuron, which sends a message to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord sends a message back to the motor neuron. So that bit there, that's all your nervous system. That's going to go to your effector, muscles in your hand that move it all, that contract, and your response is that you move it away. This is called the stimulus response model. Stimulus at the start, response at the end. That's what we talk about. The brain isn't involved, but it does become aware shortly afterwards. So your brain doesn't go, oh, wow, that's hot, maybe we should move it away. That happens automatically, but your brain then goes, oh gosh, burnt myself there, that was hot. Okay, so it's not that your brain is totally unaware, it's just that it doesn't coordinate the response. They're important because they're fast, they respond to danger, okay? They're any involuntary action that helps to increase the likelihood of survival, okay? So things like blinking to stop things getting into your eye that could hurt you, okay? Things like your balance reflexes to stop you falling over, putting your hands out in front of you when you fall. You're born with a lot of reflexes.
Babies are born with a set of reflexes critical for survival in the outside world. Some of these reflexes are so obvious you might not think to look for them, such as the breathing reflex or the eye blink reflex. Rooting is one of the most critical reflexes. By touching 4-week-old Lily's cheek, she'll turn her head and open her mouth in preparation for nursing. Once the baby is in contact with a breast, a bottle, or even a finger, the sucking reflex takes over. Involuntary at first, the neonate will gradually gain control over sucking during the first year. Placing liquid in the mouth will induce the swallowing reflex.
In the first few weeks of life, it takes all the baby's concentration just to control these various uncoordinated reflexes. At this age, feeding Julia can take over an hour. After about 6 weeks, though, Julia will be a pro. There are other reflexes babies are born with that we don't completely understand. In the first 2 months, babies exhibit the stepping reflex. This is probably a precursor to walking. Watch Lily's toes fan out and curl. This is the Babinski reflex, which occurs when the bottom of a baby's foot is stroked. When pressure is placed on the baby's hand, you can see the grasping reflex at work. Lily's grasp is strong enough to support almost her entire body weight. For a few seconds at least. When startled or dropped, a baby may respond with the Moro reflex. The arms fling outward and inward as if the baby were groping for support. 2-month-old Julia doesn't even need to be awake to demonstrate this reflex.
So, lots of very important reflexes there. Please don't go finding a random baby and testing them out. A lot of what they were doing there would be very dangerous to the babies if you don't do it properly. Okay? We'll look a bit more at the actual structure of the nerves in the next video.